Hello friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. Today we have a really fun project. I'm going to teach you how to make this exact sign. Now I know that this sign is not going to be for everyone. The reason why I've chosen this sign in particular to show you how to make is that there is a lot of different techniques for acrylic sign building that you should know if this is something that you're interested in doing. I cut this all out in my glowforge and designed it in Inkscape. There is layered acrylic. There's also an engraving with paint fill in the engraving. Things that you're going to need for this project is need some thick body acrylic. Now, don't get the cheap stuff. You're gonna need like a hard bristle brush and a weeding tool. You're gonna need like a silicone brush, and then you're going to need, I don't even know what this is called. When I buy like my packs of brushes, these plastic things always come and there's like two. Like, I don't know what these are called. I just know you're gonna need one of these. And then the other thing, my glue that I've been using for all of my acrylic signs is this brand new epoxy that Super Tight came out, and this stuff is amazing. There's zero smell to it, non-toxic. It's not going to kill you. You're not going to have a headache when you're done using it. Nothing bad in this epoxy that is going to give you any type of weird side effects. Okay, so we're gonna go to the computer and we're gonna pull up Inkscape and then we'll design this file. All right, y'all, here is the finished sign. All I'm gonna do is make this a little bit smaller. Very first thing that we're gonna do is put in that back piece. But we're just gonna click this little shapes button right here and make sure that you have this polygon, and we do 8 corners, and then we're not gonna do any rounded edges, and we're just going to make this bigger and just let go. Then go up into your arrow tool and we're gonna click that. Now I can drag that back into our artboard, hitting Control on your keyboard and the bigger arrow, and we're just gonna make this bigger. You don't need to worry about the sizing just yet. At the very end, we will worry about the sizing. Okay, you can see that right here at the very edge of that dotted line, it's not completely straight. So all you want to do is click on it again, and this arrow will pop up. This is like the rotate arrow, so just make it straight. All right, there we go. Okay, and now all you want to do is just click on out of that. So go up here into this size right here. If you're thinking in millimeters, that's fine. I like to look at inches, so I'm going to click on the inches mark, and I'm going to make this, well, actually it says that it is 11, it is a full square, but it's for some reason looking like it's not. Since it is a square, we're going to leave it the way it is. Now what you want to do is that is our back piece, so we'll change this to blue. Now you're going to need this like inner white portion that's right here. Click that blue again and then press Command D or duplicate. It will look like nothing's happened, but we can change this to light gray. And then if we do Command Shift 9, that's going to make it smaller. So we're just going to make this just a little bit smaller. And now we're going to do a duplicate again. So Command D, and we're going to change this to any color. It will look like nothing's happened again, but do Command Shift and 9 again, and see how it's getting a little bit smaller. This is creating that white border right here. So make it any thickness that you would like. Okay, so now that we have the finished ones, we are going to click that top layer and then press Shift on your keyboard and do that like gray layer that we just did. Now what you want to do is do Command Shift and the minus button. We're gonna make this box that's right here. So all you want to do is go over here to the left and click that rectangle. When I did this, I made it the same width as the border that you created. So all I'm going to do is make a box roughly about the same size. It does not have to be perfect because we're going to readjust the size here in a second. Let go, then come back up into your arrow tool and then zoom in with this little arrow tool. We're going to just drag this over and we're going to create it the same width as our outline border. And then we're going to go over here to the left and make sure it is perfect. Okay, that right there is the perfect size width of the outline. Now that I have that, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to go over here. And I'm just going to set this wherever you want for right now. And then we want to duplicate it because now we're making a rectangle. So Command D, any size rectangle at this point. And then just do another Command D. That's going to duplicate it again. Instead of trying to figure out how to perfectly move this over to the left and rotate it, come up here to this rotate button that's up here. That's perfect. So we're going to drag this up to the top. And then this little arrow that's right here, we're just going to make it larger and longer. Now that we have that top portion of the rectangle, then go back down, Command D, and we're going to drag this to the very bottom. Now take your right and left leg, shift and click both of them, and press this align and distribute, we're going to align to the top. Well, actually, you know what we could do is do the 2 legs in this very top portion, click all 3 of those and do align to the top. That's just going to make sure that everything is aligned to the very top. And then right here, we're gonna zoom in and we're gonna take this one. We're just gonna bring this down to where it goes to the very bottom of the 2 legs. Now to create the FAAFO. Okay, so taking your text tool, and I'm gonna go over here to the right a little bit, and then click on your artboard and then put in the text that you're wanting. Then come back over here into the arrow, click that, doing control on your keyboard, and also this arrow, the side arrow, we're just gonna make it larger. Okay, for this font that I've chosen, over here in the text box, click that. I use that. I think it's called Cabell. Probably did not pronounce that correctly, but that's what I used for this font. And then press apply. So in the ADT sign, because I made this sign to look like the ADT, see how the A right here at the very base of the A is straight? This font, if you look at this A, is not. The reason why I chose this font though is because this A is portioned at the top as like a point, and that's the same thing like the actual ADT sign. So while this is not a direct match to the ADT logo, it's a pretty close match, and we're gonna be able to finagle this font to look similar to that. And now that we have this spelt it the way we want, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so we can continue looking at it. Now what you want to do is you want to change this into a path. So come up here into path and do object to path. Okay, now that we've created that path, then you can Command Shift G and that just ungroups it. So all of these are all ungrouped now. And I'm going to zoom in and then click out of that. So go over here into this node button, click that node, and then we're going to click the F. Now, just like with the A and the ADT, you know how the bottom portion is completely straight? I don't know, but I'm assuming that if there was an F in the ADT logo, that everything would be nice and straight just like that A. So all I'm going to do is take this node and I'm just going to make it straight. And then right here, there's a little bit of an angle. So I'm just going to make that straight. That was like the easiest part of the entire letters that we're going to do. Now that we're done doing that, just click out of it. And that looks like a perfect F. I'm going to click that A and I'm going to make this straight, just like what we did with the F. I'm going to do the same with this side and then click out of it. And then because there's an additional A and we've already done the A and the F, all you have to do is now go up into your arrow tool and we're going to delete these two because we already created that. We're not going to make any extra work for ourselves. Shift and click on both of those and press Command D. We'll just slide this over and then we're obviously going to have to rearrange these where it's FAAFO. And then coming over here into the O, we're going to drag it a little bit closer, and the O was perfect. I don't feel like we have to change anything at all. And you see how the legs of the A is like super short, which is exactly what I created here. So go back over into the A, zoom in, and then go into your node selection tool again. What you want to do is click Shift and click on both of those nodes, and you can just click your arrow down on your keyboard, or you can also drag them with your mouse, but you can just click down and it'll start making it shorter. Now, the angle of this looks a little bit different and off as you move them down. So now all you want to do is just straighten this out just a little bit. That looks good. I love the look of that. Okay, the other portion of this A, the thing that I changed with it is you see how this A right here, like the inside of the A, seems to be a little bit lower. Like this one's directly in the middle and this one's a little bit lower. Okay, go back over into your arrow tool, click that A that we're messing with, and do Command Shift K, and that is going to release all of the paths. So now you don't have a center for your A. So click out of it, click that big portion of your letter A, and click this back button that's up here. I'm going to change the color to this to a gray so we can see what we're working with. So now we're just going to make this scoot this down just a little bit. Looks pretty good to me. I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. So then we're going to go over into that and just click. So just clicking the top portion of your triangle and then just press your down arrow key on your keyboard and then click out of it There we go. So now you can see like this, I like the look of this. We're gonna hit that arrow key and we're going to now click the inside triangle, press shift on your keyboard and then your A. So we're gonna highlight both of them and we are gonna go back up here in a path and then difference. And now you have your hole again for your A. Now that we've readjusted that again, we're gonna delete this A because we don't want that anymore. And we're gonna select that and do Command D, and that's a duplicate. I'm gonna make this over here into the right, and then I'm gonna click this F, and we're just going to bring this over just a little bit closer. Bring that closer. Now bring that closer. Okay, I select all of the letters, go over here into your align tool again, and I am going to arrange it on the bottom. So that's everything is on the bottom is all straight. And I'm going to change this over all into black. And then what you want to do with it selected, we want to do Command D. And we are going to change it to any color that you would like. And then do Command Shift and 0. 0 is going to make it an offset and make it larger. See how that's getting bigger? That's exactly what we're doing. Now what you want to do is just go over here and we're going to send it all to the back. So then we can see by zooming in, we can see that we have, let's choose a different color so it's a little bit brighter. There we go. See that orange is just a little bit bigger than the blue, than the black. See how we cut it in right here? Just kind of eyeball it. I don't really have like a good number or how many times to click it. I just clicked it until I felt like that was a good size. And I think that this is a good size. Now that we have that, what we want to do is take your orange portion of your F and then your A, and we're going to Command D that, and let's just try it. Command Shift and minus button. We did not get what we wanted, so we're going to Command Z. We're going to go back. We're going to take this F and we're going to bring it up to the front, and we're going to select them both again, and we're going to do Command Shift minus key, and that's what we're looking for. So we're going to take this and bring this over. We can delete this A, the original black A, and we'll bring this back up. Now we're done with this F, this orange F, so we can delete that. But do you see how now we have like a little bit of a gap? That's exactly what we were looking for. Now what we want to do, so now what you want to do is take your black A, this black A that you've already sliced up, and we're going to press shift and press the orange back of the next A and press Command D. We're going to drag this down. Doing the same thing. We're going to do Command Shift minus key. That's not what we're looking for. We are trying to cut that original A. So Command Z, and we're going to just click that one black and we're going to send it to the back. And then we're going to shift and click on both and do Command Shift minus key. And there we go. You know, why you have to send things front and back, I don't know. And then we're going to just bring this back up to the front, and I'm going to just try and realign them back with the original A. All right, change it back over into black. And now that we're done with that A, I'm going to now delete the orange A backer. All right, now we're going to work on the F portion. So taking the orange A, the second orange A, and then press shift and select that black F. Have I confused you? I sure hope I haven't. I sure hope by the time we do this a couple times, you will understand what we're trying to do here. So the second orange A and then the front F, that's what we want. And then Command D. We want to duplicate. We're going to drag this down. And doing the same process, Command Shift minus key. That's not what we wanted. We were trying to cut that F. So Command Z goes back. So we're going to take this A, this orange A, bring it to the front, and then doing the same thing. Select both and Command Shift minus key. And that's exactly what we were looking for. So now that we're done doing that with the F, we're going to delete the original F and we'll drag this back up top, just aligning it to where we need it to be. And then I can delete this orange A because now we don't need it anymore. We're almost done. Now we have to work on the O. So click on the orange F backer piece and then shift and press the black O, Command D. There we go. And I'm sure we figured it out. We need to take that orange and bring it over to the front, and then shift, click that black O, Command Shift minus key. And now we have the O the way we need. So then we can delete the original O that we have. We can drag it back into place. And now we can delete the orange O and the orange F. And that is your finished FAAFO. And hopefully I did not lose you. I'm gonna select all of those. I'm gonna make sure and not do the center one. Go down to the bottom. Make sure it's all lined up on the bottom. And I'm gonna group this. So Command G. Now just click Control in this right arrow and I'm gonna readjust the size, zoom out just a little bit. And this is where we're going to just readjust the size. Don't worry about that teal box that we've created. We're gonna fill this up however large and in charge you would like it to be. And then go back in and pressing Shift in both of those and realign it back to the center. Now I'm going to adjust this box to where it's just a little bit bigger than the actual logo. Select all three of these, the two legs and that bottom piece, and we're going to line it to the bottom. And then we're going to take the top piece and just make this a little bit bigger. See how it's super big? Why don't we do this? We'll just click the bottom piece and we're gonna make this smaller, and then click the top and make that smaller. Looks good. Now what you wanna do is just make this line, zooming over to the left portion and doing the same thing. We're gonna make this a little bit smaller, meeting up at the top of that one top of the rectangle. Same thing with this. Just make it where it's the same size, and see how this is just a little bit smaller. Just take that and we're just gonna make it longer. Now that we have all of that, press Shift on your keyboard and select all four sides of your rectangle and do Command Shift and plus sign, which is union. Now that you have that, let's click out of it. This one we're gonna wanna make white, so we're gonna change that over into white. Now with the F, we're gonna also turn that white. Go down here and we'll change that white. There we go. Okay, zooming out. It's actually a good thing that we chose that text box because we're gonna have to now insert everything else, the secured by, and then this part right here. So clicking the text box, we're just gonna click wherever and click this box that's right here. And then type exactly what you would like for your sign to say. So for me, it's secured by, and we're only gonna work on the top portion right now. Once we have that done, go over here to your arrow tool, and I'm just gonna do Control and take this arrow, this right arrow, and I'm gonna make it bigger. For the font that I've chosen for these two things, I use the DIN alternative, and then just press Apply. Now we can double click this box, and up here at the very top right here, these two A's, this is like where the space in between your lines go. So you see how there is like a big gap right here and there isn't right here. If you just take this minus tool and you can readjust them to where they go smaller or larger, and then go over here into your arrow tool and we're gonna make it bigger. Okay, doing the same thing that you did before. Select that black secured by, press Shift and do your outline again. And then we're gonna go over here into Align and Distribute, and we're gonna make sure that it is in the center of your board. Now what you wanna do is Command D and just drag this down. We're gonna double click and we're gonna put everything else in there. At this very bottom right here, we're gonna retype that in here. And then when you're done, we'll just go back up here into the arrow tool. And then I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger and I'm gonna drag this over to the bottom. Okay, selecting that, and then also your outline. So Shift and click your outline, click that center button right there. Now what you wanna do is by selecting this, oops, and we haven't grouped this yet. So select that FAAFO, press Shift, and then that one box that you've created around that and group that. So Command G. And then we want to click all three of these now, and then come over here into the Distribute button. And this is where you're going to evenly distribute throughout the project. So you see how there's a huge gap right here, but there isn't right here. Now watch, you press this button right here, and now this is even and this is even, and that's exactly what you want. So then you can Command G, and by selecting this and that outline, we are going to come up here and we're going to make sure that it's completely center throughout our entire project. So doing the left or the horizontal and the vertical. And then we can now, what we can do is just Command Shift and G, which is ungroup. For this, you want to create these into objects. Do Command Shift C, and then we want to do Command Shift G, which is ungrouping. And then what you want to do is union them. So Command Shift and the plus sign. And then go over into the bottom text box and we're going to do the same thing. So Command Shift C, Command Shift G, and then Command Shift plus sign. Okay, so we're gonna delete this right here. We're gonna Command A, we're gonna select everything and we're going to duplicate. So Command D and just bring this over to the right. Now, so what we're gonna do is select A and we're going to right click on the fill and we're gonna remove the fill. And then we're gonna do the stroke, right click the stroke and make it black for right now. And then this number that's right here, right click that number and press the 0.1. This right here, let's think of the left side as our full backer piece. We want to cut the very back, but in order to align these right the way you want to, we're gonna change our lines into either score or engrave marks. So for our outline, we're gonna want to be a score mark. So then come over here into fill and stroke, and we're gonna go over here to the right for the stroke. We don't want to fill anything. And we're gonna make this red. So come over here and make this 255. And then this FAAFO is also going to need to be score. So that right there is going to be another score. These two things right here, we want to be engraved. So then click on both and do the blue. And that is going to be engraved. Alrighty, and now when you come back over here, for this right portion, these are gonna be the pieces that you're gonna be working with. We're already gonna cut that back piece, so we can delete that. We want to keep this portion right here because that is going to be that white outline. So keep that. We don't need this because we're going to engrave it into the back of our board. So we can delete that and we can delete this portion up right here. This right here is going to be another layer of acrylic. And so this right here, we're going to keep it as a cut file. So this is what your end file is going to look like. Okay, go ahead and save this file. And then we're going to load this into the glowforge app. And there is our finished file right there. Okay, if you needed to resize this at all, you could do that now by selecting all and making this smaller. So now what you want to do is make sure it's engraved. Those are going to be cut. And then this FAA or FAAFO and the outline thing, it's currently set to cut. Click on that and do score. Now everything is exactly where you need to be. You want to cut the backer part, score the border and that FAAFO so you can align it appropriately later. And then you want to engrave these two things. Now over here on the right, this is where everything's going to cut. This is a pretty important step. When it comes to paint filling anything, you want to do a light engraved. So come back over here into your engraved portion and press this arrow key, and I just bump up the speed to where it goes a little bit faster and then it won't be as deep, and then click out of it. So right now my settings is 737 speed with 70 power, and then that's it. Go ahead and cut these files and engrave these files and then come back to me and we will finish assembling everything. All right, now that you have all the pieces cut and engraved, we're gonna work on the backer plate first and we're gonna set these over to the side. Okay, so just keep the sign just like that with all the masking tape on it. Don't take any of the masking tape. One of your really thick bristle brushes, and you want to just brush out the engrave. Okay, so with this right here, you only want to get the paint inside the engrave. And all I do is I take my paint and I'm just gonna squeeze out a little bit onto my actual backer plate. I don't put it inside the engrave. And then taking one of your scraping tools, fill in the gaps. So I'm just taking my little flat piece and I'm dragging it over the engrave. And it's okay if it's not perfect right now when you fill in all of the gaps. You don't want to overfill the engrave marks because then it could seep underneath your masking tape. Okay, when I have it mostly filled up, I always just take my scraper and I'm gonna go in a level motion. You don't want to dig into the engraves. You just kind of want to swipe at it. And then might be really hard to see, but like in some little areas there's going to be like a black dot or you know, just like an air bubble. That is where there is no paint. So if you see that, then I would suggest changing directions and dragging the paint the other way. Okay, drying process. Leave it just like this. Set and forget. Don't be impatient and start peeling this masking tape before the paint dries. We're gonna be doing a little bit of TV magic here in the craft castle for this project. I feel like I'm in one of those cooking shows where they like put in a casserole in the oven and they're like, wait 90 minutes, but have one, and they pull it out and it's like already baked. Essentially, that's what we're doing today. Okay, and now it's time to start gluing in all of these extra pieces that we have here. And this is where the epoxy comes into play. Super tight epoxy is a part A and part B mix, but the great part about it is 1-to-1 equals of both, but you don't need a scale. The way that they've designed this is that you can just eyeball it. So we're just gonna put a little bit down and it's gonna be so hard to see. So I just did part B. I'll bring this up so you can kind of see it. Now you just kind of want to eyeball the other part. Thing right there, that like puddle is what I just poured. Once you're done with that, all I do is take my silicone brush and mix it around. And that starts activating the epoxy to start curing. This stuff does take 1 to 2 hours to cure. Remember, the hotter the climate, the faster the cure. If you want a slower cure time, then make your room really cold. So making sure you have really clean hands, because now that you've mixed that, you don't want the epoxy on your hands because you're gonna start touching your sign. We're gonna work from the inside out. So I have my little weeding tool pick. This is like the best little hack ever to get this masking tool off. And I am just going to take off the masking tape of just the letters. Okay, and then when I'm working with acrylic, I always only peel the back portion of my acrylic where I'm gluing. Now that we have that, I'm gonna take a smaller brush and I'm just going to now paint the back side of my letters. I'm not gonna go to the very edge of my letters because you don't want the epoxy to run out of the edge, but you're just going to get just like in the middle. And the more epoxy that you use, the longer the cure time. So you just want like a small little bit, and I'm staying in the middle of my letter. I'm gonna line this up into place. And then we're just gonna keep on keeping on. Now that we have that done, we are going to now work on the outside box. We're just gonna take the masking tape off of this portion, and then we're also going to take just the masking tape off the back of this box. And all I'm doing is just taking a small little bead of glue. I'm taking the very tip edge of my brush and I'm just going right in the middle of my acrylic. You don't need a whole lot of glue. And when we have that done, holding with 2 hands, you want to line this up to that line before you put it down. So same thing what we've did on the inside is just take the masking tape off. Now make sure you don't bump these portions that you just glued down, because they will start to wiggle around on you. Because it's so big and flops around a little bit, I am gonna take my smaller silicone brush and I'm gonna dip it into my epoxy, and I'm just gonna go in a small little bead around the actual base plate of my sign. All we're gonna do is just lift this up. We've already taken the masking tape off the back, and we're just gonna line this back up onto our base plate. Perfect little fit. Now, acrylic, when you cut it, most of the time it starts to bow a little bit. This back corner right here, it doesn't want to lay flat. All I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of weight. So I'm gonna take my epoxy bottles and I'm gonna sit it on top. Don't slide the epoxy bottles or whatever you're using for the weight. Just set it down straight. Now, when this is done curing, it'll stay straight. But for the curing process, you do wanna add a little bit of weight just to make sure it stays in place. And then essentially that is your finished sign. And this is what it'll end up looking like right here. So all the gluing is done and this is your finished sign. All right, y'all, I sure hope I inspired you to make, and I will see you later.